Oh, noon.
Okay, the meeting will come to order. Clerk will take the roll.
Thank you.
Jay,
Here.
Bob,
Here.
Cindy, Eric,
Here.
Mark, Kurt,
Here.
Nancy.
Here. Cindy and Mark are excused. I thought Cindy was going to be on the phone.
She will be. She said she may be just a few minutes late, so we should hear her buzz in here pretty soon.
Oh, okay. We have a quorum, and now it's time for the voluntary pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved. Second.
Do we need a roll call vote on that, or are there any objections? Hearing none, so ordered. We'll now amend or approve the meeting agenda.
I'd like to make a motion under, or a request to put under discussion items. Discussing reinstating the Alaska marijuana, in the municipal marijuana commission.
Is there a second? Hearing none, the motion fails. Public hearings. Public hearing for ordinance 2016-08, an ordinance amending Chapter 932 of the Borough Code, the smoke...
Debbie's flagging it down.
I'm sorry, Nancy. So the amendment failed, but we should...
approve the agenda.
Yes.
Sorry.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the meeting agenda as is.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any objections? So ordered. Public hearing for the ordinance 2016-08, the ordinance amending 932 of the Borough Code, the Smoke-Free Air Act of 2010, and amending Chapter 912 of the Borough Code, littering, by amending the definition of litter. Is there anybody that would like to address this? Okay.
Good afternoon, Assembly members. In regard to the Smoke-Free Air Act of 2010, I am in favor of all the revisions. Marijuana is not smoked like cigarettes. Even a chronic marijuana smoker may smoke 4 to 6 marijuana cigarettes a day, as opposed to a cigarette smoker who smokes 20 to 40 cigarettes in a day. An average marijuana smoker smokes 2 to 3. An average marijuana smoker smokes 2 or 3 a day. So you can see that we are not talking about a mass amount of smoke as compared to 5 people smoking regular cigarettes. I'm also in favor of for allowing smoking marijuana in a retail facility. I want to stress now that I have not in any way, shape, or form applied for a permit to smoke in my facility if I ever get one. It is a separate, totally separate license, basically, that you have to get, and I have never even talked about having it, so this is a gossip that's going around. I just wanted to clarify that. They do not, I forgot where I was at, sorry. I got ahead of myself. Anyway, that was my basic thing. I am for all of the revisions, and I just want to let people know I have not applied to have, if I do get a retail marijuana store, I have not applied for people to be able to smoke in that marijuana retail facility. Thank you.
State your name and who you represent, please.
I'm Barbara Fish, a resident of Petersburg, and I represent myself. This is the one part of the law that I am completely against, is allowing smoking of anything, whether it be marijuana, cigarettes, pipes, any kind of tobacco product in a public place or private business. I like the way the the ordinance reads as is. I think it's a complete double standard to allow marijuana smoking and not allowing any other kind of smoking. And there's an ad in the Petersburg Pilot, smoke salmon, not tobacco. There's an ad in the Juneau paper for the Alaska Tobacco Quit line. They've done such a good job trying to get people to stop smoking. My feeling is if you allow smoking of marijuana in a public place, then I don't want to use the word slippery slope, but then it looks like you're condoning the smoking, period. And whether it be marijuana or whatever, selling it, it's legal, and if it's sold, that's fine. But I don't think that the ordinance should be changed to allow smoking. And I don't know if it's possible for the Assembly to just take out that part of the amendment or how that works. But that would be my recommendation, is to take that point Q out so that smoking of marijuana is not allowed. It's section 9.32030, and it specifically states retail stores accepting properly licensed marijuana retail stores where the smoking of marijuana only, as defined blah blah blah, is permitted. So I would, my feeling is that I would like to see that deleted as an amendment. I hope I'm saying that right. And I'd also like to thank Jay for responding to an email I sent. Thank you for taking the time to do that.
Of course.
Is there anybody else?
My name is Marge Oines. I represent myself and anyone who agrees with me, if they so choose. I have a couple questions. Who was it originally who voted for the Smoke-Free Air Act of 2010? Was that a ballot that the whole borough voted on, or was it something by the borough council?
It was on a
know?
ballot.
It was a ballot.
It was on a ballot that the city voted on.
Okay, on a ballot. So my question is, does that mean that to change something in that ballot, that it has to go before the people on a ballot?
Only if it's substantially changed.
Only what?
Only if it is substantially changed.
So is this considered substantial changing, what you're wanting to do? And who determines that?
Well, the borough attorney, I did run it by our attorneys, and no, she did not feel that these changes would need to go on a ballot.
Oh, okay. My other question is, what is the motivation of the borough council behind changing the wording?
Go ahead. Which wording? Which wording are you're to add marijuana? Is that your thinking, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Jay. I'll defer here.
Go for it, man. I mean, to be consistent with I am by no means speaking for the entire assembly. I'm speaking for myself on this one. That seemed consistent with the all state laws regarding marijuana in Alaska. It was consistent with state law.
So is it the state law that is determining the wording that is being put in?
If I may?
Yeah, please do.
Actually,
I just don't know enough of.
that's okay. That's all right. Not a problem.
Yeah.
The reason that the Smoke-Free Air Act wording is being changed really is because of the marijuana ordinance that we also are working on passing. In order, if the marijuana ordinance as written is approved, the smoke-free ordinance needs to be changed as well, because the marijuana ordinance does allow for on-site smoking in a smoke room of a retail store, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
Thank you, Debbie.
Yes.
Let's see. You said something that triggered. It's the curse of getting older. Let's see. Well, let me go to my other question. In the paper on May 19th, our manager said that, let me just read it. Excuse me, said that the Assembly still has the option, this is May 19th, still has the option to change the current marijuana ordinance, including things such as limiting the number of permits, setting more restrictive limits on the location, or banning the consumption. Okay, now, is it possible that you could put, whoever puts announcements in the paper, that when you're dealing with each one of those separate things, that you could put it in the paper, that when you're going to be talking about it, so we could know and come? Or when are you planning to discuss these changes so that we can?
Look like you're ready to, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Actually, speaking to
yeah.
our acting mayor here, actually my comments in my report or in the meeting are related to the actual ordinance that has been under discussion for several meetings now, meaning the Assembly has the option or the right to make modifications to that ordinance, as well as the Smoke-Free Act, which is what this public hearing is about.
Okay, yes.
Those, and that's exactly why the Assembly has 3 readings, including the public hearing associated with that. So those are the times to come in and speak to that, exactly like today where you're talking about the Smoke-Free Act.
Yeah, that's all. But there will be other meetings where you will talk about the number of permits?
This is the ordinance. The marijuana ordinance itself includes all of that information. At the current time, the Assembly has not chosen to restrict the number of permits. They have chosen at this point in this ordinance to allow a on-site smoke room in a private business.
Any business?
It has to be licensed by the state and approved by the state. It's a separate license that goes along with the whole statewide statute on marijuana.
So if there were 3 businesses or 4 businesses in Petersburg who wanted to apply for a license to have a smoke room in their business, they could do that?
No.
I don't understand.
Go ahead.
A retail marijuana store like I want to have.
Okay, just,
The smoking would go, you have to get a permit, and then that would be in that same type of business, but it has to be separate at the same time.
okay, so just a marijuana store, retail store.
There can be multiple retail
Yes.
stores. To have a smoke room, according to the state statutes, it must be affiliated with and on-site the retail establishment in a separate room with a bunch of safeguards on.
I have read that, but it's a lot of information to try and figure out.
Bob?
To add to that, if you look at the requirements to get a license, they're very costly and very time-consuming.
Yes, I have looked at that, yeah.
I think that in itself is going to significantly limit the amount of people that will apply for them because of the cost associated with it and the amount of time.
Well, and the demand. I
Yes.
think it's going
Yeah.
to be self-limiting.
But so that there is no limit, though, at this point. And this is the only place where you're voting right now that could determine that. Or can people come back to the council and say, we would like to limit the ability of, let's see, we would like to limit the number of marijuana retail stores. Can people come back to limit that? If 6 people want to come and apply, that can be done?
When is the
Yes.
3rd reading of that ordinance?
I believe the 3rd reading of the ordinance, the marijuana ordinance, will be the 2nd meeting in July because I do not believe we have a quorum for the 1st meeting in July on July 5th. So there will be a 3rd reading, the 2nd meeting of July, which is the 18th.
But even if that ordinance passes, it doesn't mean it cannot be amended in the future.
Okay. So I am against the changing of the smoke of the ordinance today, because smoke of any kind, e-cigarettes, marijuana, or regular cigarettes, cause harm to our lungs.
Anybody else?
Hello, I'm Kevin Clark. I'll be speaking on behalf of myself. Basically, all this is doing is allowing marijuana businesses, that if we get a retail store, to have smokers in-house. Bars currently could have cigarette smokers in the bar, but there is a set of regulations that they'd have to comply with in order to have cigarette smoking allowed. All this is doing is just adding that same thing to marijuana businesses. That's all it's doing. Any bar in town could, under this, what the conditions under which smoking is permitted, if they complied with that, would still be within, could have smoking rooms, whether it's cigarettes, pipes, cigars, marijuana businesses being different because it's just marijuana being allowed. But basically, by adding the marijuana, it's not changing anything in the regulations. All it's doing is getting us compliant with what the state's doing. That's all I got.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hello, I'm Katie. I am with Petersburg Indian Association. I'm the Tobacco Prevention and Control Director, and I agree with some of the changes, but I don't agree with some of the changes. So on page 4 of the ordinance.
Katie, could you speak a little louder, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
So under the definition of smoking, I agree to allow the electronic nicotine delivery systems, but I would like to include aerosol as, sorry. Thanks. I think so. So to please include the aerosol to the smoking definition as they are actually producing, the vapor products are actually producing of aerosol instead of a vapor. The aerosol is made up of liquid and submicron particles of condensed vapor, which mostly consists of the propylene glycol, glycerol, water flavorings, nicotine, and other chemicals. This aerosol that is produced resembles the cigarette smoke. And then page 5, under the smoking prohibited in enclosed public places, in the retail stores, accepting the properly licensed marijuana retail stores where the smoking of marijuana is permitted. Please don't allow for this exception of smoking marijuana in retail facility. If this ends up being allowed in this section, if it's not allowed, then this needs to be updated. Smoking is smoking, and it doesn't matter if it's cigarette smoke or marijuana smoke, and it should not be allowed at any enclosed public places, including a marijuana retail facility. It violates a smoke-free workplace. Even with proper ventilation, it does not eliminate or protect us from the secondhand smoke. In Washington and Colorado, the majority of municipalities ban on-site marijuana consumption at dispensaries and cannabis clubs as it affects their Clean Indoor Air Act. Driving while impaired in Alaska is illegal and unsafe. Allowing on-site consumption will be putting the public safety at risk. Like alcohol and other drugs, marijuana affects people differently and impacts their ability to drive, bike, or do other activities. Although The user may feel safe within 2 to 3 hours. Impairment can last much longer. There is no legal way to assess whether or not someone is over the limit. The current and best way to test is through blood, which can take a few days to process. On page 6, smoking in prohibited outdoor areas. For A, if you can include aerosol, if it would be allowed in the smoking definition. And then for section A, B, C, and G, I would like to change the distance from that is currently at 5 feet to 10 to 25 feet. Obviously, I'm in favor of 25 feet. Secondhand smoke is known to cause cancer and other diseases, including pneumonia, asthma, bronchitis, and heart disease. Although there is no safe level exposure to secondhand smoke, the further the distance is better. It will allow those who do not smoke and those who do not wish to have their health compromised by secondhand smoke a better chance of breathing clean air. Most children do not fully understand the health risks of secondhand smoke, and they should be better protected. In page 7, conditions under which smoking is permitted. When they permit a smoking room in a business, I would like to suggest to have this completely taken out, as it does violate I feel like it violates the smoke-free workplace. And once again, even with the proper ventilation, it does not eliminate or protect others from secondhand smoke. We all deserve clean air where we live, work, and play. Pretty much it. Do you have any questions or while I'm here? No? Okay, thanks.
I'm Marcia Fernandez. I represent myself. In reference to what Katie was just speaking of, page 6, section 9.32.070, specifically the distance. Can you tell me why it says 10 to 25? Why is it not a set distance?
It will be. That was Katie's suggestion, somewhere between 10 to 25 feet. So this is for the assembly to decide what within that range, I guess, if they're going to change it.
Okay. I too would definitely encourage you all to go with the 25 feet. I live next to the Harbor Bar in the PIA building. It's an apartment, and we pay handsomely for the privilege to live there. There's a real problem in that the back door of Harbor Bar is very close to our building. And in fact, the alleyway, half of it is access to the bar and half is access to our building. I would encourage you to look at the distance there, and you will see that even 25 feet is not going to cover the area needed to keep cigarette smoke out of our apartment building. And specifically our bedroom, 2 bedrooms in fact, are on the alleyway. So I would encourage the Borough Assembly to specifically look at the Harbor Bar, the back door, and there should be no smoking out the back door. The other thing is, any of you that have walked down the street in front of the Harbor Bar with the smokers in front, you have to walk through a group every time, every day. Just about any time of day, there's somebody out front smoking. I hear a lot of comments, probably because I live there, and probably because I care a lot more than a lot of people. But it's really not a very good image that is presented to not only our residents, but to our visitors to town. And yes, you can all say, well, if you don't like it, cross the street. And I do on a regular basis. I look down. It is 2 doors down from where I live. And if they're smoking there, I cross the street. And I would encourage all of you, if you haven't walked by the Harbor Bar any time of day or night, I invite you to do so and breathe in that secondhand smoke. So I think when you're looking at the distance here, and it's not only there, you walk by Quito's. So what have you accomplished by saying people can't smoke in the bar, yet you have to walk through an intense cloud of smoke from all the smokers to get into the establishment? Really, 25 feet should be your minimum.
Anybody else?
Madam Mayor, Assembly members, sorry for the way I look. I stopped painting just so I could come and join you for a short time. My name is Beverly Lopez. I'm representing myself. I was very excited to hear Susie's testimony that she has not applied for a smoking room. Thank you. And that's just gossip around, is that she's striving to do this. I was very excited to hear that. So if this change is proposed and it's being motivated by a marijuana ordinance in order to become compliant with what the state has done and has written, and if our one person who is planning on selling this, it just says testified that's not really an issue for her wanting to do this, then why are we changing our clean air ordinance to accommodate the state law when our person that wants to sell it, it's not an issue for her? It's like we're letting the state ordinance tell Petersburg what we're going to do, but the law, the way it was enacted, was that we get to make a Petersburg law. And so I see no need to change that ordinance to allow the marijuana smoking, because our one business who's planning on selling just testified that it's not really an issue for her. She's not really interested in that. I don't believe that we should change what the people voted in just to accommodate that marijuana bill. And I know the marijuana bill has not passed all the way through. It hasn't had its last reading. So why don't you amend the marijuana bill to accommodate what people have already voted for on the clean air? Why don't you flip it around and do it that way? I don't believe we need to conform to the state law. We have the right to make the law specific for Petersburg if it continues through. And thank you for letting me express my opinion, and have a good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I am one of the crackpots that come out of the woodwork, as you referred to, Mr. J. Gregor. And I'd like to speak about the problem about smoke. I wrote a letter to this assembly. I am Grant Harold Trask. Yes, and I'm one of the crackpots. So I wrote a letter to you because I thought it was imperative for you to learn all the facts, and I decided I would use the lessons of history, which are indelible. And I referred to this letter because I called you the gatekeepers of the public health of Petersburg. So I'm going to quote from my letter because I can see with this smoking ordinance that you're seeking to change that you haven't learned the lessons of history. So I'm going to quote from the letter I wrote to you, which is printed in the edition of Petersburg Pilot on June 19th. The title of my letter that they chose at the Pilot was "Popular Doesn't Make It Good." To the editor, or for that matter, I also included Borough Assembly. Learning facts is important. Relearning facts is also important and sometimes exacting and painful. Take tobacco. About 400 years ago, people colonizing in Virginia learned to smoke tobacco from local Native Americans. Recreational yet addictive, this poison began killing Americans. Only about 50 years ago, the medical science started to prove the obvious. Millions of people go to an early grave because of smoking tobacco. I've lost family members and friends, as has every person reading these words. The good news is that we have finally relearned that smoking is bad, and less of us are smoking and consequently dying of it. The learning curve was essentially flat. People refused to face the facts. The poisonous effects of smoking tobacco took its tragic toll. Then I skip over to another part here where I'm going to reinforce what I've just said. Neither medical science or the medical establishment of the United States condone the use of marijuana for recreation. If tobacco smoke going into human lungs is harmful, can marijuana smoke be healthy? Science does not yet have the evidence on this, only because the testing needs longer time spans, but hospital emergency rooms and morgues have been filling where marijuana has recently been legalized. Again, check these facts for yourselves. I don't know if you've checked any of these facts, but I am not making this up. This is history. And so I'll end my little part here where I have given you the charge. If you're a Petersburg resident who serves on the Borough Assembly, it is imperative to deal with facts and not be swayed by bias or opinion. Sober reflection about the use of drugs in Petersburg is before you, as you are the legal gatekeepers to guard the public health of Petersburg, us. And my PS on this is to reinforce what Katie had said. Some of you folks know that I have been the guy who made a horrible mistake and drove under the influence of a controlled substance. I don't consider that a very happy thing, because I wouldn't be standing in front of you, except for the grace of God. I did not run over anyone and kill them. Otherwise, I would be in prison right now for manslaughter, because I had taken Zolpidem as a sleeping pill, and I forgot I took it. And I went behind the wheel of my car, and I totaled my car in a block and a half. I'm not proud to say this, but I say that because if I did something like this under the influence of a drug, I know that when marijuana use is increasing in Petersburg, Alaska, there will be others like me who will get behind the wheel of a car, and the smoking effects of marijuana will be replicated in their driving habits. Thank you very much for my opportunity to address you.
My name is Robert Lopez. Most of you know me as Doc, and I represent myself. I see a trend with this assembly that I find disturbing. Now, I'm just going to make comparisons here, not bringing up old business. When the marijuana law was enacted, it was voted on. You said 54% voted for it. Those same 54% also voted to have the opt-out. The others voted against it. But that was part of the law. The opt-out was part of the law, and they voted for it. There was a voice of the people that came forward that said they wanted to look into this, and this assembly dismissed that, determined that it wasn't significant, though it was part of the law that 54% voted for. Now, the voice of the people said that they had wanted this, and they were denied the opportunity by this assembly. Now we have a law that was passed disallowing people to smoke in public places. And it was done by the voice of the people you represent. Now it seems that once again you're circumventing the people's choice. The public, the Petersburg public decided this, not you. But with your attorney, city attorney, and with the majority here, you're determining that you can subdue the voice of the people. I don't think you're acting in good faith for who you represent, and I would ask that you reconsider. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, that ends the, anybody here have anything to say?
Debbie has a letter. Are you going to read Robin's letter? Is that the time to read that letter that Robin wanted you to read?
Robin, I don't have a letter
Robert,
to read.
She emailed it and said that she would like you to read it?
I did
Didn't
not.
get it?
I did not get it.
Okay, all right.
I apologize.
I'll resend that.
This is Cindy, and I'm on the line, but I also received that letter. I believe all the assembly members got it.
Unless I was copied, I wouldn't have got it, unless you guys send it to me.
I'll forward it to you right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, I'm Jeff Hunt, representing myself. And I'm for opting out of legalization and sale of marijuana in Petersburg Borough. I enjoyed Doc Lopez's presentation. I thought it was a lot of logic behind it. I think that the public should have a chance to vote next fall whether or not there's actually a place of sale in town, like proposed. And I'd ask you guys to reconsider that and give us a chance to vote. I think there probably would be a pretty good turnout. So I'm for Kurt's Mohitter's suggestion that we put this up for vote again for Petersburg. Thank you.
I'm Butch Young, and I'm representing myself, and I've written to the council before you made the decision not to allow a vote. I just wanted to reiterate, the people of Petersburg deserve a chance to vote on this issue. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Madam Mayor, I do have the email that was sent now, if you'd like me to read it. From Robin Roberts to Petersburg Assembly members. I am traveling and am unable to attend the next meeting, but I would like to register my objection to any changes to Petersburg's clean air ordinance that would permit a cannabis cafe or marijuana smoking lounge in the downtown area. I would appreciate it if my comments can be read out loud. According to the current draft state regulations on on-site marijuana consumption, there are two areas of major concern. I have also submitted these comments to the state. In Section E, Subpart 2, the draft requires a ventilation system to direct air from the on-site consumption area to outside the building through a filtration system adequate to reduce odor. This is a very poor specification subject to broad interpretation. What I can envision is that people can loiter near the consumption area vent output and attempt to get a contact high. What's needed is a filtration system to remove or neutralize the intoxicant before it is released into the outside air. Odor needs to be eliminated before it is exhausted to the outside air. It is not fair to subject innocent citizens, especially our children, to the offensive aroma of marijuana while they walk down the street. Who in our borough will monitor the exhaust air quality to ensure that intoxicants and offensive odors are not released? What technology will be used? How much will it cost? How often will monitoring be conducted? What will enforcement consist of? If a violation is found, how long will the offender have to remedy the situation? In Section F, Subpart 1, the proposed regulations state that employees working in the on-site consumption area must not consume marijuana, but in a smoke-filled room, how can an employee avoid exposure to the airborne intoxicant, a contact high? Is there a time limit for each employee that would mitigate the effects? Is there some specific evidence to base a maximum exposure time to intoxicating smoke in an enclosed space in terms of each single exposure and a cumulative exposure throughout the working day? There are a lot of questions that need to be answered satisfactorily before we should even consider allowing this type of smoking facility in a populated area. I believe that there are no good reasons to allow this, and only further costs and hassles and an erosion of our town's character if we allow a cannabis cafe, particularly in the downtown area. Thank you for your time and consideration. Robin Roberts.
Hi, I'm Michael Mullen. I represent myself. So we all have our opinions and bias, as a word I heard earlier, and that's okay. I think that it's all fair for us to either support or not support this in one way or another. But I think that as your duty as our representatives, that you should give us a voice and allow the community just to choose. I think it's fair. And so I don't personally support retail pot, but if the whole community voted and it passed, I'd say okay. But if I wasn't given an opportunity and the community wasn't given an opportunity, I would feel cheated. Right? I mean, it's fair. And so then also my opinion on allowing smoking at a retail facility is what we're doing is we're saying that we're okay with putting the public in jeopardy, because if you've ever been high, which I have, there's plenty of mistakes that I've made while high. And so we know that people leave the bar and get into their vehicle and drive home. And that will happen for our retail pot facility as well. People will get into their vehicles and drive home because it's the easiest way to get there. So it's something to really take into consideration. Even if they're on a bike, well, I'm going to bike home. Well, and they cut right in front of traffic. Or they run into somebody. Or. There's a lot of ors. And so, you know, I would really appreciate it if you take those things into consideration before just pushing it through. Give the public a vote. You know, I overheard that an idea about creating a board on this with members from the community. I think that's a really great idea. Thanks.
Anybody else? Okay, that closes the public hearing. Bid awards. Visitors' views related to the agenda. There are none. Visitors' views unrelated to the agenda. Please state your name and who you represent.
Borough, and I represent myself. Assembly members. We, the entrepreneurs, did do our homework in regards to initiating our marijuana licenses. I have personally been in touch with at least 3 assembly members on and off throughout this last year. Not to mention I was in contact with at least 2 of the members of the marijuana committee when they were intact, always. I have followed the borough's posts on their site and have kept up with what the state is up to. May I say, it has been a whole lot more than has apparently been done by some people. By following what the borough has been working on this past year, it has given me and others to believe that all was well here in regards to the marijuana going retail in Petersburg. I posted my notices as required by the state, and not one, let me stress, not one person turned in a letter opposing or objecting to me having this retail business. That's what the posting was about. The notice was there for 3 weeks in 2 locations in plain view. There was also one in the newspaper posted notices for 3 weeks. Please, Mr. Woolhooter, do not try to tell me that people misunderstood my post. Over the past month and a half, you have and has tried to make us believe that Petersburg is full of stupid and misinformed yokels. I believe politics, voting, and preparing is like the law. Ignorance is no excuse. Every election, all the items that'll be on the ballot are posted throughout the paper, not to mention usually we get flyers in our mail, and it generally on our TVs. If you choose to throw them away or ignore the information, then it is your fault on election day for not understanding what you are voting for. Although, as our local reporter posted on November 4, 2014, 614 Petersburg voters, 58% of those who turned out, scratched their pencil on the ballot, darkening a little oval, marked yes to ballot measure 2 entitled, "An Act to Tax and Regulate the Production, Sale, and Use of Marijuana." I don't find the ballot measure 2 title confusing at all. It specifically states, "An Act to Tax, Regulate the Production and Sale and Use of Marijuana." In Mr. Woolhooter's remarks in the paper in regards to one generally checking with all the other investors, seriously, there are 2 of us at this point in time who have applied for licenses, and there are 3 others that more than likely will shortly. We have gotten together and we have discussed the prospects and the pitfalls of the situation. Did you know there's a webpage that we post on in Petersburg for information about Petersburg and what the marijuana, regulations and stuff are going on? Anyway, by the end of Mr. Woolhooter's letter to the editor, he effectively tried to make me and Gary Morgan, the other entrepreneur, look like complete idiots. And you, Mr. Woolhooter, should be ashamed of yourself to even be sitting there right now. Have you, sir, spoken to me in regards to what I have an interest in doing? Never, not once. You continue to act as though no one has any common sense but you. Your BS is exactly the kind of crap that confuses people. I would suggest, Mr. Woolhooter, that the next time you decide to slam me, you get your facts straight. And as for the other investor, you should read the material that Gary Morgan turned in at the May Assembly meeting. He gave you very good information in regards to his grow operation, demographics, everything. I don't understand your rhetoric in regards to the planning and zoning, et cetera, is for what purpose? Do you seriously think the Assembly is not responsible enough to make these rules and regulations, or is it your ulterior motive to try to scare everyone into allowing you to reassemble the defunct Marijuana Committee? What a waste of time that would be. Your committee has had your chance for 7 months, and you blew it. If you would have been doing the job assigned to you back then, and if you had, at that time, thought that opt-out was a good idea, you would have taken care of it then, right then. But in reality, it was brought up and spoken about one time at your committee meeting, at your marijuana committee meetings, and it was shelved immediately. Do you remember? So, Mr. Woolhooter, please stop trying to make it sound as if you had not ever heard of opting out until recently, because we all know that's not true. Also, I have not, and I'm going to read this again, also I have not and do not plan to apply for a permit to allow smoking in a retail marijuana store. My notices reflected my interest in opening a retail store, and that was it. I don't believe the state even has all of the regulations completed in that regard yet. Sorry, I am not in the know about this, as it hasn't interested me. And the only licenses that I know of right now that you can apply for is a retail marijuana license, state cultivation facility, standard cultivation facility, a limited cultivation facility, a marijuana production manufacturing facility, marijuana concentrate manufacturing facility, and a testing facility. Thank you for your time.
Sorry, I have to respond to that. I think I'm going to put in Barbara Fish. I need to put in a good word for the Assembly members, because I think you have all taken the time to let us state our beliefs, what we think is good for the community, and I don't think calling people names works in this situation. I think there's a lot of people that have different opinions on different things, And I don't agree with everything that everybody has said today, but they have a right to say it, and I'm not going to call them names because they say it. Anyway, thank you for your time and everybody's time, and for the people who have stated their preferences to whatever you guys decide to do. That's it.
I would like to clarify, my name is Marge Oines, speaking for myself. I'd like to clarify something that was spoken at the last council meeting by a fellow. I talked with him after the meeting, but part of his testimony was that marijuana is not addictive. So I went over and talked to him, and I said, you know, that isn't correct. And he said, well, it's psychologically addictive. And I said, I understand the difference between physically addicted and psychologically addicted, but I wanted to clarify that because to say publicly that it is not addictive is not correct. I know that it is addictive. The class that I just attended, I'm a retired RN, it is very addictive. Whether it's not, if it's not physically addictive, that could be in question, but it does need to be clarified that it is addictive.
Any other comments?
Madam Mayor, would it be out of order for me to change hats and become a citizen and read this letter that I sent you guys that states my point and my heart where I've been on this whole issue? Everybody has misquoted me that I'm still trying to get rid of marijuana, when in reality all I'm trying to do is just give the voters a chance to weigh in on an opinion that's very contentious. So any objection from the Assembly?
I don't have any.
Anybody?
Go for it.
Can I get a unanimous? Okay.
I'll speak up.
Okay. I'm changing hats. I hope it clarifies a few things for you here. Don't worry, I'm not going to call you an idiot. If I offended you, I'm asking for your apology. I probably could have used a better choice of words, but that's not what my intention was. My name is Kurt Walhuter, for the record. Common citizen. The vote on 2014 and the proposed advisory vote in October 2016 are two totally separate issues. 2014's was to legalize the cultivation and trade of recreational and commercial sales of marijuana in the state. The 2016 advisory vote is how we will regulate it now per our individual values in accordance with our community. We on the appointed, and I'm calling myself because I was on that committee, so I'm just as much to blame as how things went down. We, on the appointed Marijuana Advisory Committee, should have focused on facilitating community input by forming questions for the ballot box, not answers. Not everybody can drop what they're doing and have their lives revolve around important issues every time they come up. That's why we volunteer. We should remember that we are only one vote out of a couple of thousand. There will always be those that take special interest on any given committee by attending and then arguing that their opinion is the only one that counts because they bothered to show up. Just because we have the time does not give us the final decision because others don't have the time at the moment to participate. It was our responsibility on the advisory board to give voice to those that were balancing their life in its many forms with questions and options and formats where they could spend a few minutes at the polls and express their opinion, which then would help the Assembly craft a standalone marijuana ordinance that best reflected the wishes of the majority, especially on one that is as contentious as this one seems to be, because it will affect all walks of life in our town. So therefore, the actions of the past, I call it MAC, which is the Marijuana Advisory Committee, to assume a foregone conclusion and allow an ordinance be drafted without further input at the polls will have grave consequences, such as the fact that a citizen's initiative is already on Debbie's desk, which basically removes all security within those that want to invest until resolved. If If we continue down this path without an advisory vote in October, we will have accomplished a couple of things, in my opinion. Failure to gain public opinion in crafting a draft ordinance or marijuana ordinance, and their trust in our ability to look out for the community as a whole on this issue and inherently on any other. So I will be asking to consider under new business to reform the MAC with a very specific focus and purpose, tasking them to provide questions to be placed on the October ballots that should reflect the will of the voters so that the citizens that do get out to the polls will have some ownership in the final process. I realize that not everyone will be happy with the outcome, but at least the right to be heard on this issue locally at the ballot will be satisfied. Let's not force this to go to a citizens' initiative in October. Susie and Gary are waiting to invest their savings, and I would hate to have them wait either if we wait until 2017, because it's too late to put it on this ballot in October, if we go to the initiative. They'll have to wait now until 2017 before they will, which would be about 471 days to see if the initiative fails or passes before they can invest in confidence. Firstly, knowing whether or not they can open shop in October if we put some questions on the ballot this October. So that has always been my intent. My intent was never to opt out. I've noticed I just read an article here that said I'm still pushing to opt out. All I'm actually trying to do is give everybody options, every single voter. One vote, one voice. So now I'm going to be one of 7. Instead of, I'd rather have 2,000 people voting on this if they all turn out. So anyway, those have always been my intentions, and I apologize to you if I considered you an idiot, because that's not how I felt. Thank you.
Can I make a ask him a question or ask questions?
I'd be more than willing to stand up and ask questions, if it's okay with you, ma'am.
About this.
Susie, if you're going to talk, you need to come up. It's okay.
This People's Initiative, even though it's on your desk, does not, in my understanding, hold up anything. If I want to go ahead and submit my license to become a retail marijuana store, this initiative doesn't stop me.
No.
That's what you made it sound like, so I just wanted to clarify that.
Can I answer that? What this initiative will do is, it will come before the voters. So if the voters, with the initiative, I understand, if I read it correctly, was to prohibit the sale and cultivation of commercial, I'm just paraphrasing this, that's not the exact one. And if it passes, that says we don't want marijuana sales in Petersburg, people have already made an investment, and then within 90 days, they will be out of business. So what I'm trying to do is protect people, from wanting to invest in this business, but let's see what the people want to say. So my mission statement that I also set forth to her today, and I used the wrong word when I said reform. I should just say reinstate the MAC, which is the Marijuana Advisory Committee. The goal of the reform, or not the reform, but the reinstated MAC is to craft as few yet concise enough questions that can be put on the ballot in October that will provide the Assembly with the essence of the will of the voters for a standalone marijuana ordinance. So my intentions always has been to take the control out of my hands and put it back into the voters' hands, which I seem to be hearing a lot of. And so all I'm trying to do is serve the public best interest. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you. Anybody have anything else to say? Under visitors' views unrelated to the agenda. Okay, board, commission, and committee reports. There's nothing on the consent agenda.
Oh, there is.
Is there?
Yes.
Authorization to allow the Petersburg Borough to sign an interlocal contract for cooperative purchasing of the Houston-Galveston Area Council for equipment and supplies. And how is it with consent agenda? Is there a process?
You just need a motion and a second to approve.
So move.
Second.
The clerk will take the roll.
Jay?
Yes.
Kurt?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes. Report of other officers. Mayor's report. Let me find it. Sorry. Thanks. The Borough is seeking letters of interest from Borough residents willing to serve on the following boards and commissions until October 2016 municipal election. Hospital Board has one vacant seat, and Planning and Zoning Commission has one vacant seat. Letters of interest may be addressed to the Borough Clerk and emailed to dthompson@petersburgak.gov. Mailed to P.O. Box 329, Petersburg, AK 99833, or dropped off at the Borough Administration Office in the PIA Building at 15 North 12th. The 2016 Mayfest celebration. Petersburg was visited by many dignitaries during our little...
Oh, that's an old one.
That should be the
Here we go.
one. Community
Okay.
report. You already get that one.
Filing for candidacy for the October 4, 2016 election. The first day to file for candidacy for any open board, commission, or assembly seat in the October election is July 26, 2016. A list of open seats will be provided by Clerk Thompson in the near future. And we're seeking community input on state dock issue. The state of Alaska has offered to transfer ownership of the Papke's Landing Dock, the Kupernoff Dock, and the Entrance Island Dock to the Petersburg Borough, along with a lump sum payment of $732,883 toward deferred maintenance. Condition assessments were recently performed that estimates the cost to bring the Papke's Landing Dock to a safe and usable condition at $1,050,000 and usable condition at $1,395,000 for the Kupernoff Dock. The Borough Assembly is seeking input from the community regarding acceptance or denial of the state's offer. A questionnaire on the issue is available for printing off the Borough's website or can be picked up at any Borough office from the City of Kupernoff Clerk or from the Papke's Landing Public Notice Board.
Very welcome.
And now the Borough Manager's report.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to put out special thanks to Captain Hamilton as well as our EMS folks who helped transport using our security skiff to Portage Bay and to medevac a person experiencing cardiac difficulties at midnight on June 12th. Thanks to them helping out in that area. The annual FERC inspection of our Blind Slough hydro project was held on Thursday, June 9th. We will receive a formal report later, but the inspector indicated there were no major issues. One of the things we're still working on is repairing the fiber line that we use up there that a bear managed to chew through. We're putting it in new thick-walled conduit to hope to solve that problem for the future. Maybe aware, I think I've spoken to it before, we kind of downsized our line crew to save some money. It's kind of kept us from taking on any really big projects, but we are keeping up with the new service requests and trouble calls. We're constantly keeping an eye on it, and if it starts to become a big problem, I'll come back to the Assembly and beg and plead, but for the moment, we're Power and Light, thanks to them, they're holding their own. We had a potential for replacing the downtown lighting poles and fixtures. It's kind of hit a snag, and we've stopped that project. The unit that was selected by the community committee that was looking at it is now estimated to cost just shy of, just over $7,600 each. We only budgeted $3,000 each for them. So I told them at this point to stop, and we'll revisit this some other way, some other day. We may look for a grant and see if we can find something out there. But for the moment, we'll make do with our existing street lamps downtown. Parks and Rec Summer Camp is up and running with full registrations for almost the whole summer. And also swim lessons are being offered each month of the summer for ages 3 to 9. Talk to Parks and Rec if you have any questions. The 4th of July meetings have been underway. A finalized schedule is out for those of you who haven't seen it. If anyone would like to be involved in that committee or help out, they meet every Tuesday at 1 o'clock at the community gym, the community center. Our new Parks Director, Chandra Thornburg, arrived this weekend on the ferry. She should be starting tomorrow. She's got in late and is unpacking today, so we hopefully she's up getting here and starting to feel comfortable, and just gets here just in time for 4th of July and our other busy summer programs. So hopefully we don't chase her off. Public Works staff completed upgrades to Fram and Excel Street sewer mains in preparation for paving of 8th Street. They will be moving on to complete culvert work at Lake and Valkyrie Streets. Seacon's current schedule for paving has that sometime around the 4th of July, so we're in pretty good shape. Reed Brothers Construction will be completing the dirt and rock work at the library landscaping later this month. They've done a really good job, getting lots of compliments from folks. An extra special thanks to Jesse O'Connor from Parks and Rec for overseeing the planting with help from Pam Speck, Andrea Weathers, Courtney Farron, and Debbie Eddy, Chalon Produce for providing most of the plants for the project. The project is being funded by legislative appropriation from the state of Alaska and then contributions from many folks here locally. Centennial Park, which is part of that project in a sense, is a new park located behind the library. Now provides a pedestrian connection between the Birch Street Boardwalk and the library. The land for Centennial Park was given by Polly Lee in 2008 to the city of Petersburg for a public park to be enjoyed by all. The park commemorates Petersburg's 100th anniversary, celebrating its official incorporation as the town of Petersburg in 1910. The site was the home of Harold and Magdenhild, I'm sorry about that, Lee. An event to celebrate the creation of Centennial Park will be held July 2nd at 11 a.m. Members of the Assembly and the public are invited to attend. Thanks to Sue Paulson, who donated the historic fish trap anchor that is now located in front of the library. Again, lots of folks in the community have been involved with that. Summer Reading Challenge is now on. Over 160 kids have signed up to participate. Kids are challenged to read 120 minutes per week and participate in an educational activity every week to earn raffle tickets for the prizes on display at the library. Our Alaskan Housing Finance Corporation inspection at the Manor is complete, and Medicaid inspection is still to be determined. We're waiting to hear what date that'll be. State licensing inspection went very well. The only findings were the inspector recommended more blankets for our disaster kit, water temperature was a half a degree too high, and health-related service forms needed to be updated. So, payments from Medicaid from April and May were held up due to the state budget issue. That has been resolved for the moment. It's something that Sheila and her staff are having to keep an eye on. The new borough-wide online property viewer is live. It can be reached through the borough's website on the community development page. Check it out and let us know if there's anything that you're seeing that it's not doing for you. Liz is working on a grant application to hopefully find a way to fund ADA-compliant gangways at the South Harbor. It was something that was in the comp plan. We'll see if we can find the money somewhere and maybe upgrade those ramps. PEDC has awarded the professional services contract to P&D Engineering for the preliminary design and engineering to develop a small vessel workyard at Scow Bay. We expect public meetings to occur in September and October on that project. GED testing computer and associated equipment have been set up at the high school, and they should be ready to administer tests in August. The school is still looking for someone who can offer part-time tutoring for GED students. Thanks to PEDC and the Emblem Club, which funded the computer system to allow for local testing. Prior to this, it was very difficult for folks to go through that testing process. They had to leave the island. The U.S. Forest Service Alaska region is conducting an alternative use feasibility study for the Chugach Ranger boat. The Chugach is listed in the National Register of Historic Places and is one of the Forest Service's most significant and iconic historical resources. The Forest Service has an online survey at www.surveymonkey.com/r/MBB8L83. But if you can't remember that, just come see us and we'll give it to you. PEDC is contributing to the Southeast Conference review of the Alaska Marine Highway System. Phase 1 of this project is to identify alternative governance structures for the Marine Highway System. What that kind of means is, do we want to regionalize the ferry system and take more away from the state? That's the concept. I don't know what the study will come back and show. They're going to be having some folks take a look at it, provide some analysis, and go through a very public process, and then make a recommendation on what would be the right management model for that system. Hopefully we get really good information out of that, and PEDC felt it was worth contributing to that project, as important as the ferry is to all of us. The Drive Down Bulkhead project started last week with mobilization of Tamako and their subs. The float will remain accessible, but we're asking people to be very aware of the increased equipment traffic as the project gets moving. Harbor staff have been working with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Alaska District, on a potential South Harbor basin dredge. We'll be hosting the inspection team today and tomorrow, and for initial site evaluation and program discussion. Meeting with them this afternoon, and along with Glow and Liz, I believe, and just kind of kick it off, and hopefully we'll get some good news. Heads up to the public, July 8th through the 10th, the Nordhaven to Alaska Rendezvous will hit Petersburg by storm. Approximately 32 40 to 76-foot Nordhaven vessels are planning to spend 2 nights in town. They will provision their vessels as well as enjoy a couple days taking in the offerings of Petersburg. So if you see them around, welcome to town. And that's it.
Unfinished business. Ordinances for second reading. Ordinance 2016-08, an ordinance amending Chapter 932 of the Borough Code, the Smoke-Free Air Act of 2010, and amending Chapter 912 of the Borough Code, littering, by amending the definition of litter. How do we deal with these amendments now? Somebody has to move, and they have to be moved and seconded?
Yes.
Okay. And then, of course, the mayor can't make motions, I don't think. So does anybody want to amend anything?
I guess I would move to approve ordinance 16-08.
I'll second.
Okay, is there any discussion?
Yeah, I want to talk about, I like Katie's changes, and I think that Katie and Marge and Marcia made some really good points. There's a couple of them, some of their points I think are very valid, and unless we absolutely prohibit smoking publicly downtown, we can't solve some of those problems, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. The other side of that coin is I get to thinking about those who are smokers. I am not, but is it right to chase them totally away or to take all what they consider their rights away? I have a problem with the section on the smoking of moving it from 10 to 25 feet. That's not going to solve the problems that were brought up, in my opinion. And so I'd like to make a motion to accept all of the changes that were made with the exception of the distance under 9.32.700. I would like to leave that at 5 feet. And that's my motion.
Second.
Any more discussion?
I just want to comment too, like, kind of reiterate what Bob's saying, is that
all we've done now is just taken it away from the door of the establishment in which they're smoking in front of and putting it in front of the door of somebody else there is not, they're coming out of, I've talked to one of the people downtown that said if they moved 25 feet to the north from the Harbor Bar, they'd be right in front of their door. And
Well, there would have to be 25 feet from that door, I
Oh,
believe.
is it from per door or from just the establishment?
No, from any door,
From any
I
door.
believe.
Okay, can I get a clarification on that then, yeah?
Yes.
Is that what it is?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Madam Mayor?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Talking about the 5, 10, 25 feet thing, I mean, as a non-smoker, I think it'd be great to not have to smell smoke anywhere downtown, but similar to what Bob said, don't be too prohibitive on that. Where I get stuck on the 10 to 25 is, Chief, is it all right if I ask you a question? Sure. Cool. Right now, how many tickets are you writing for that?
I don't believe we've written any.
Gotcha. And what I don't want to do is make you guys the nicotine police, so to speak. And similar, when I'm trying to make rules for my son, I try to only make rules that I'm willing to enforce. And I question our ability, or maybe our desire as a community, to task you guys as the police department to enforce that rule of the 10 to 25. And if we're not going to be strictly enforcing it, then I would be against making that rule. So I'll be supporting Bob's amendment.
Bob, may I get a clarification from you? So you said you would be in support of all of the amendments that Katie made. Is that including the smoking of marijuana at the retail establishments?
Well, the proposal is to take it, let me run the section past me, please.
Okay, it was section 932.030. It's point Q, retail stores. It's on page 5.
Thank you.
Because even though the state has written in the ability to have a cannabis cafes into their ordinance, I would be for the striking of this position right here from our local establishment or from our local ordinance, especially now since we have a proprietor who has no intentions of ever, or at least in the near future, of seeking a marijuana smoking in her establishments. I'd like to kind of clear the waters of this contentious issue that we have in front of us, and it'd be nice to be able to parse the two apart. One smoking in a retail establishment, and then the other legalizing the commercial sale of marijuana in town. So I would be for striking this additional statement right here for the retail stores off of this amendment.
So you want to offer an amendment to my amendment?
I guess so.
I have a question. Isn't this exception require the same as the Clean Air Act, which is a ventilated, enclosed space? So I thought we were working to get these two ordinances to be the same. Does that mean we want to remove the smoking room in other establishments?
I feel that it would be simple enough to be able to remove, to limit our consumption of marijuana inside a retail establishment. I think that would be a great way to be able to separate these two ordinances. I find this ordinance confusing with nicotine and litter and Smoke-Free Air Act all kind of bundled up together. So I would like to see this kind of cleaned up a little bit and separate it from the ordinance that we're withholding until we finalize our additions on the Smoke-Free Air Act.
Else have anything to say?
Madam Mayor, if I may. And then the wording of is Service Area 1 of Petersburg. Debbie, did we not mention at one time that this would be borough-wide or could be borough-wide?
It could be, yes, that is correct, it could be.
So if we go with what Eric is saying, then we strike that from this
and then we'd bring it back up again when we do the marijuana ordinance. Okay.
Is that right? All right, clarification, please, Debbie. I got a bit lost there.
I also am just a little bit confused about what is wanted.
I would like the additional statement in red here under retail stores. The statement saying accepting properly licensed marijuana retail stores where the smoking of marijuana only, as defined in section 6.04.010H of this Borough Code, is permitted. I would like to remove that off of this ordinance 1608.
So you would not, so no on-site marijuana smoking in marijuana retail stores, period.
Correct.
So it won't appear on the other ordinance either. Because if it does, actually it will change the other ordinance, is what will happen.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel, that it sounds like the town has spoken, that they would prefer not to have retail or smoking in a retail establishment, and I feel that sounds like a solid plan, and to try to separate the two, one being the commercial sale and the other smoking at a retail establishment. And I would like to cancel this or strike the wording from this amendment of this ordinance.
Which actually is still part of Bob's original amendment because he was agreeing with Katie's suggestions other than the distance.
Great.
Correct?
I was agreeing with with her suggestions on the vapors and aerosols and all the other changes that she had proposed here.
Yes.
With the exception of the distance.
Okay, right.
Okay, and that was, but the one here that Eric is talking about was not one of Katie's changes. It was a different, it was under Q of, as I got it, under Q of.
Well, that is one of the things I thought she had mentioned. Yes.
Oh, okay, I
Yes.
missed it.
However, I do want to point out underneath, with your amendment, she also mentioned on page 7, 9.32.095, conditions under which smoking is permitted, that entire section be taken out, and that does apply to the smoking rooms for tobacco that have been in the Smoke-Free Air Act ordinance since its inception in 2010. So, I just wanted to say that was also something she asked for. I want to make sure you...
Please run that back past me again.
Page 7, section 9.32.095.
Okay.
Conditions under which smoking is prohibited.
Permitted.
Permitted. She asked for that entire section to be removed from the ordinance. And that doesn't apply to only marijuana. It applies to the smoking rooms that are allowed for local businesses if they set them up as such smoking rooms.
Okay, I'm remiss then because I thought all her changes you had shown us here in yellow.
Well, I thought so too, but she had extras when she came in, so.
Oh, okay. All right, go ahead.
I don't know of either of the bars or clubs that have set up a room like this, so does anybody know?
No.
I have heard, not bars or clubs, but I have heard that there is one local business that has a smoking room for their employees. But I don't know that this is fact. I've just been told this.
Does it have to be vented?
Yes, I believe it does.
Employees aren't.
Yes.
Well, okay.
Yeah, if I might, it is very, very clear, like on that section right there, 932.095, there is no need for employees, customers, or vendors to pass through the smoking room to access restrooms, break areas, or any other portion of the place of business in which they might need to access, and the business does not require employees, customers, or vendors to enter the smoking room when it is occupied by smokers. So,
And you want to remove that part?
no, I would like to keep that in. It has worked for 6 years, and I would be willing to keep it in.
So,
Can I do a point of clarification, Madam Mayor? Since you made an amendment, what specifically were you trying to amend right there? I'm wrapped around 5 different ways right now. I apologize.
And I'm about halfway where you were. I thought we had before us is and for the public out here, we have a list here of both, well, I'll call red changes and yellow changes. And what I was assuming is that Katie's was, the changes that she was proposing were in yellow. That's what I was assuming, and then I was shown by our borough clerk that I'm remiss on that. And that's what my amendment was based on.
Assemblyman Lynn?
Go ahead.
All right. Would you find it perhaps might make it more clear if we go through each of her amendments in an organized fashion, so we each agree on it?
I could agree with that.
So, somebody withdraws their second and somebody...
I'll withdraw my initial motion.
Yes?
The second.
Okay.
I seconded the first motion.
Cindy?
I seconded the first motion. Do we want to start over?
Yes.
Yes, that's what I'm proposing, Cindy.
Okay, I rescind my second.
I rescind my original motion.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, may I make a suggestion? If the clerk could walk you through each change, and maybe the assembly could then vote on that change, we could just kind of go through it a step at a time. Yes.
Like a line item of sorts?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Excellent.
so let me be clear. All the motions and seconds have been withdrawn.
Withdrawn.
Yes.
Okay.
Starting over. So we need a new motion.
I would move we accept ordinance 16.08.
Second.
Okay. So for discussion, I have written down here what Katie started with here. Page 4 of the ordinance, adding the word aerosol to the definition of smoking. You want to go ahead and just vote on this one amendment and then keep going?
I'll make a motion and we include that word aerosol.
And I'll second.
Okay.
The clerk will call the roll.
Nancy?
Yes.
Kurt?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Okay, great. Now on page 5. Please don't allow for this section in red. So I believe that this is item Q. Katie, are you still here? Let me know if I'm wrong. Okay, so 9.32.030Q on page 5. Retail stores accepting properly licensed marijuana retail stores where the smoking of marijuana only, as defined in section blah, blah, blah of this borough code, is permitted.
Cindy, were you trying to say something?
Yes. Debbie is referring to pages, but I'm looking at this on my computer, and I need to know the section.
Yes, section 9.32.030Q.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So Katie was asking for removal of the words in red on item Q.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion.
Make a motion. I'll second.
Clerk will call the roll. Or is there any discussion about it? Okay, the clerk will call the roll.
Go ahead, Debbie. You're going to clarify?
So this is for removal of these, of the words in red on Q. Okay. Nancy?
Yes.
Kurt?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Jay?
No.
Eric?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay, now the third change that she spoke about was on page 6. Cindy, section 9.32.070. A, changing the distance from 5 feet to somewhere between 10 and 25 feet.
So my motion was to leave it at 5 feet for the reasons I gave. And while you're on this, I would say that same for A, B, and G of that section.
And she also mentioned C when she was talking. So for sections A, B, C, and G, she was requesting the increase, and your motion was to leave distance
Leave
at
it at
5
5 feet for the reasons I stated.
So would you like to make another motion to that effect?
Yes, my motion is to leave it at 5 feet.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Clerk will call the roll.
Nancy?
Yes.
Kurt?
Yes.
Cindy?
No.
Bob?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Okay, are we going to deal with vapor or aerosol in that same section, Unit A?
Oh, good job. I missed that part.
I missed
And the addition of the word aerosol,
Or vapor or aerosol?
vapor or aerosol to A.
So move.
I move we include the word vapor or aerosol.
Second.
Okay.
Clerk will call the roll.
All right. Eric?
Yes.
Kurt?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Okay, and then on page 7, section 9.32.095, conditions under which smoking is permitted. Sorry, I keep saying the wrong word there. She was requesting the entire section be removed from this ordinance.
I'll entertain a motion to that effect. Hearing none, I guess it stays in.
Okay. So unless you have any other... Oh, okay. It looks like there was one more thing that somehow I missed. What section is that?
9.32.105, Debbie?
9.32.080 on page 7 of your paper copy, D.
A motion?
You wanted that removed?
I missed that one. Which one was that, Debbie?
I missed it too.
Okay.
9.32080D. If you're going to remain consistent with eliminating the smoking room, that would need to be deleted.
Where smoking not regulated.
Correct.
So it would be removing item D.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Hang on. Took a look at Castro.
No,
I think he's got it.
hearing, huh?
I don't know. He might want to deal with that.
I didn't have that one. Smoking
Get
regulated.
a copy of this?
To remove that.
Okay. Yes, I'll make a motion to remove that.
Is there a second?
I'll second it for the sake of the argument.
Okay, any discussion?
Well, I feel that if we're going to follow, along what we just decided for Q, that we should not allow smoking in those retail establishments. So they're essentially the same.
Like the same thing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Repeat?
It is.
It's consistent with the other change you made.
Yes.
Yeah.
So removing one doesn't remove another? Okay, well. Any other discussion? We'll be voting on the removal of Unit D from this.
Correct.
Clerk will call the roll.
Eric?
Yes.
Kurt?
Yes.
Jay?
Nope.
Nancy?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Okay.
So unless you have more areas you would like to amend,
I thought she wanted to see 9.32.095, that entire section A through E removed as well.
yes, there was no motion made by anyone
Oh,
at the
okay.
table to do that.
Okay. So now everything is amended as we would like?
No.
Go ahead, Cindy.
Section 9.32.105 changes that suggested is encouraged to, changes to must. I would like to make a motion that we make that language change.
Second.
Any discussion? The littering part, right?
Yes.
Okay, the clerk.
Wait a second. No, this 9.32.105, Cindy?
Yeah.
Yes, the receptacle.
Yes, this is not about littering. This is requiring businesses to provide receptacles.
For smoking.
Right now, our ordinance says they are encouraged to provide receptacles, and changing this to the word must means they're required to. And if we're going to do that, actually, the attorney told me that there needs to be language. We can't just say, yeah, we're going to require it. We need to tell them exactly what they have to. And I did let Katie know that and said if you are going to request this, bring your wording, you know, for exactly what we're going to provide. And she chose not to, obviously.
Well, then I would say this isn't right for action, and I would withdraw my motion.
Okay.
Okay. Has everybody, does anybody have any?
Just a point of clarification here. So the proposal then would be to leave it the same, just put the must in without any kind of a clarification on it, or to leave it original?
Leave it original. Take the must out is what Katie has.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
My question will then also maybe relate to the littering portion of these cigarette butts. Are they making it to the street, and is it a problem, or are they going into receptacle where the businesses are providing them? I mean, if it is shall, or not shall, but, recommended to require them, I can't remember what word you used, are they actually providing them, or encouraged? Are they actually providing them, or are they going on the street? I haven't driven by Keto's lately to see if
Keto's does.
If there's any hot ones there. They have them there. So Harbor has one too, places where they smoke.
Yeah, they're mostly going in the street.
Are they going in the street?
And the receptacles I've seen there have a big base, and they narrow down to a skinny little top. And one facility down the street, which is not a liquor store or bar, has a square garbage can with the whole open top that you don't see cigarette butts around it. They can hit that big ashtray.
So,
but they do, yes, they do wind up in the street to get washed down the drain.
Right. So is that some action that we should then take, knowing that there is a problem with?
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, Mac.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, please.
Cool. I'll use the Sandy Beach example. There's more garbage cans per square feet, I think, of anywhere in town at Sandy Beach, and there's still litter at Sandy Beach. Meaning, no matter how many receptacles we provide for people, they're still going to litter, whether it be soda cans or cigarette butts, is my 2 cents.
Sure. Yeah, I've always said you can't legislate intelligence, so thank you for your comments.
And also, if I may, changing the definition of littering to include cigarette butts will allow our police force to write a ticket if they see someone litter.
And so right now you can't do that, Kelly, because it's not a must, it's a encouragement?
We can under state law.
Okay, okay. Well.
Okay, anything else?
We don't have a motion, I guess I'm not going to get worked up over it.
We have a motion to pass the
The whole thing now, yes.
As amended.
Yeah.
As amended.
Okay, clerk will call the roll.
Cindy?
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Kurt,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Jay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we're on continuing in new business. Ordinance 2016-9, an ordinance adjusting the fiscal year 2017 budget for known changes. Any discussion? Oh, well, we need a motion to discuss.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discuss away.
I have a question for maybe Carl on this, is that under the paving and patching for the streets, it was $86,000. Was that the entire amount of money that was given, that we got through the National Forest receipts for, so there will be none left if we...
Thank you, Carl.
Would budget to expend $86,000. The quote for the paving is actually $81,000, so there's a little bit of contingency there, but essentially it will take us down to nil.
So if you have to add to it, that has to come from another source? In other words, what we voted for previously was obviously, earlier was, other streets that you wanted to repair, and we agreed. This is added to it, and if you come back, they come back, and for some reason there's additional funds that has to be taken out of other sources? Is that where we're at?
Safe to say, if it's above $5,000, yes.
You only have $5,000 cushion is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm. It's the patching, the streets that we're doing, it's all out in the open. There's very little risk. They know how many tons they'll be putting down. So I think there's always a chance for additional material needed. But Seacon's a very experienced contractor. I think they'll hit their numbers pretty good.
Okay, thank you.
Carl, I have a question. Are these streets ranked in importance, and can we stop if we get to the end of the money before we're done with them, or has that award or the contract been awarded so that we can't cut it short?
The initial contract that we have with Seacon for the $532,000. It's been awarded. That's the work that we've hired them to do.
Okay. Just wondered. Thank you.
This work would be additional to that. If it's approved through the supplementary budget process, then that will be a body of work that they'll also be responsible for.
Okay. Anybody have anything else? Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
Did somebody move it?
I think we made a move.
Motion's already been made.
Roll call. Time for the roll call.
Yeah.
Kurt,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Jay.
Yes.
Passes in its first reading.
Resolution 2016-14, a resolution authorizing the sale of borough-owned land within the Petersburg Borough. I'll entertain a motion.
I so move.
Second.
Discussion.
I have a question on the rules here of what we're going to, when we sell it. It says down under item F, let me see if I get this right. In the event a high bidder on a parcel sold at auction defaults, the parcel may become available for over-the-counter sale for an amount equal to the high bid offered at the auction at which the parcel was first sold, or may be reoffered at public auction at the option of the borough. What I'm asking about is the may. If the assembly chooses to offer this land, then we have to go back. If it doesn't sell, or the people can't make their pay for it, then we have to have another motion to do this again? Does it come back through again?
Sure. Thank you.
So if it doesn't sell, it will immediately go to over-the-counter. But if the high bidder defaults, we'll bring it back to the assembly, and the assembly will decide, do we just want to sell it over-the-counter at that, you start with the high bid, or reoffer it at public auction again. And they could choose to do so at the next meeting. That's how I read it. It's pretty loose. The ordinance probably needs to be updated a little bit.
Thanks, Judy.
Any more comments? The clerk will call the roll.
Kurt. Yes.
Nancy.
Yes.
Bob.
Yes.
Cindy.
Yes.
Jay.
Yes.
Eric.
Yes.
Communications. Anybody got any communications? Assembly discussion items, recognitions. Okay. Department head salaries, fiscal year 2017 department head salaries. And this is, Steve, do you want to explain the background here, or?
I can. In last year, which is the current budget we're in that ends here in a few days, the department has received a 2%, we'll call it cost of living, and that was all they received across the board. For this upcoming budget year that begins July 1st, I did not put anything in there. We did not know at the time what the state budget was going to look like. And so we took that out of the budget to make sure we had some room to maneuver if the state cut even more. Since that time, we did get our health insurance benefit quote back. We traditionally budget about a 15% increase just to be safe. It actually, with some work on Debbie and Mindy's part, we were able to get it down to a 4.6% increase, therefore saving roughly $135,000 this upcoming budget year. I made threw it out there that I could do a department head 2% cost of living type thing across the board. I think it was roughly cost us about $18,000 annually, and would still be ahead of the game because our health insurance came in so good. I believe the mayor and Mayor Pro Tem were not comfortable with that because of the state budget not currently being finalized. So that's the background. I think that's what prompted the conversation. So.
Anybody have anything?
Mr. Manager, may I ask you a question? So you mentioned a cost of living increase, 2% cost of living, and then in an email you had mentioned a merit increase. Are they one and the same to you, or?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
My apologies. I tended to use them.
Interchangeable.
We don't do cost of living here in the borough very often. We try to do merit increases for department heads. In this case, because I just did across the board, I called it a cost of living. Occasionally I slip and call it a merit increase. Same identical thing. They all received 2% last year, and at this point 0 in this upcoming budget year.
Thank you.
Nancy?
Go ahead, Cindy.
Yes, I talked with Mark this morning about this again, and I just want to make sure that folks understand this in no way reflects on the performance of the department heads. I would love to be able to give them a raise. It's purely a reflection of the state budget at this time, and the fact that we are borrowing against the funds to be able to do the municipal building, and it's a more than 1 year expense if we give a raise. I did ask if it was a possibility to give a performance bonus, and apparently there is nothing in our HR policy that addresses that. So I don't know if that would be an option later in the year. But until the legislature makes and the governor decide what's going to happen with the state budget, both Mark and I felt pretty nervous about inflating costs and having that be reflected in out years as well.
Anybody else have anything?
So, Steve, this would be 18,000 per year, out into perpetuity until we give you guys something different. Okay, just clarification there. So, again, I'd also like to reiterate that you guys are probably way underpaid. You probably deserve more than we can afford to pay, but, yeah, so I will probably, I would love to see you guys get that, depending on how the budget comes down with the state. So we can reconsider this again for sure.
Well, and just to be clear, that was for the department heads, did not include me.
Right.
I didn't.
Well, I was including everybody, you, Carl, too. You're sitting in the room, so, and Jody, who's ever available here, so.
I'm wondering where this little windfall will go if we don't use it for this. Does it just go back in the general fund?
It'll just stay in the general fund. It'll be.
Until we reconsider it.
Well, or anything else uses it up. Again, I mean, I've been pretty open that this is how we did the budget because we didn't know so many things. The department heads have been immensely patient with me on this issue. The problem is over time, obviously, this will be harder and harder if this continues down the road where we're not able to even do something cost of living wise for these folks. And they pretty much run the show. You can do without me. You'll have a hard time doing the job without them. So,
Madam Mayor, if I might touch on what Mr. Whirlholder said. So it's a 2%, just one time 2% increase, and then they just will be receiving that incrementally higher rate as opposed to a 2% for each year thereafter. So on 5 years is not 10%.
Right, no.
It's 2% total.
It's not compounding.
It's not compounding.
Yeah. Just 18,000.
Okay.
Next, yeah.
So at $18,000 a year, how many years does $135,000 cover?
I can just throw out a rough number, 7.
Just under 10. 10.
7.
That would be 180. Yeah. So you said 7?
That's a round number. That's just what the first number came into my head.
7 something.
Be 8.
Anybody have any comments?
Well, I feel that a 2% increase is just kind of staying up with inflation, and that's why I feel there's a big difference between a cost of living increase and a merit promotion or a merit increase, and I'd like them to be completely separate because, I mean, gosh, as everybody knows, it's kind of tough paying for milk, So, I mean, if we aren't giving our department heads who are providing us with excellent services in town these cost of living increases at a semi-regular basis, I feel that we're undervaluing their the benefits to the community.
I'd also like to comment that this is something that we can bring up again at every single meeting. So as soon as I think the legislature has a chance to, settle on what the budget's actually going to be, because I think they're going to reconvene again here shortly, and so I'm not saying no. I'm just saying, can we just wait and see? And then, I'll probably end up giving it to them anyway later on, but for right now.
How many department heads do we have?
I believe it's 14. I'm going to throw out 14. I'm not sure that's exactly correct. But that includes Steve. Okay.
Oh, you're going to want more?
My number included.
Yeah. The Assembly chose not to give me a raise last year.
Yeah.
I didn't include any money in it in this upcoming budget year either.
Yeah.
I'm worried about the department heads. I'm not worried about me.
Yeah.
And I have to say, during Steve's rating, he asked not to be included.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, if you want an exact number, I'd have to count them.
With 14 department heads into $135,000, it's like $900 each.
Well, it's 18,000 that you're looking at, Nancy.
Excuse
Total.
me, 18.
Total or per?
The 2%,
Right.
if each
Yep.
department head other than Steve were to get a 2% raise, it would cost the borough in FY17 less than $18,000
Okay.
total.
Yeah. I think I would like to just wait until Mark and Cindy come back and then make that decision myself. So, like I say, I will probably end up giving it to him because I'm a softie.
You really can't make a decision right now
can't,
anyway,
okay,
it's
yeah.
just
Right.
discussion
But I
item.
mean, yeah.
Non-action item.
Yeah,
Yes.
right, yeah. But just rest assured that you'll probably end up getting it eventually.
Did you have something, Cindy?
No, but I'm open to further discussion, and I'm glad we had the public discussion.
Okay, if nobody has anything else to say, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Hey.
All right.